Orban is out, and the pump. I knew I was going to say the pump. The pump and the trope are on the outs as well.
And Willy Bragg is here to talk with us all about it today. Here on the Undercurrent.
Hello.
We weren't ready for you, Willy.
Whoever is ready for Willy.
Maybe I was hungover from last night. I don't know.
This ain't that show. Come on. That's for naughty times. Hi, Willy. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm on vacation this week. I'm having a good time and everything, and I was able to cut loose last night. I don't cut loose like I used to. Don't party like I used to, but last night I did. I hung out with Snipe Hunter, called College Buddy.
Cool.
Yeah, first time I've seen him in person in 8 years, believe it or not. We live like an hour from each other, but you work graveyard, you don't get to see people that often. You know what I'm saying?
That's true. That's true. Yeah, you got that wild schedule too. Yeah. The vampire schedule.
Yep. I'm a regular Barnabas Collins, So I live within the night and I go back to my coffin in the daytime. So and I saw some people from East Carolina last night. And that was also really neat. So it was just kind of like really cool. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wearing the t-shirt from the band I saw last night as well.
Awesome.
Yeah.
A couple over the weekend, Game Film was in Chicago with his lady friend. And they survived that crazy weather that came through here too. So it was like hot one day and then freezing the next. And now it's hot again. Well, and now I guess it's 55 right now. So, but yeah, it was good to see him. So we hung out. We came over and had deep dish pizza, courtesy of Ed Heller, the legend of deep dish pizza.
I had pizza last night.
Yeah, it seems like something you have to do in Chicago. You're required by city ordinance that you should eat pizza every night. Or else you get the hose again.
Now, if y'all ever come down here to North Carolina, in the Raleigh area, I do highly recommend a place called Mellow Mushroom Pizza.
Ooh, okay.
Oh, Mellow Mushroom.
Yeah, one of the best pizza places around here in North Carolina. It's been in business since 1974. I've been to the one in Glenwood Avenue near NC State a gazillion times, but I went to the one in Durham for the first time last night. And I mean, as I said, it's one of the best pizza places around here. Haven't tried Ed Heller's pizza, so I'm going to take your word that his might be better, but
Willie, that's just a good reason for you to take a trip to Chicago.
Right. I was just about to say that, and maybe I come up from Arkansas, Willie comes on in, and we have ourselves a time.
And I love pizza, so that would be a good excuse city to go up to Chicago.
Well, you're trying to slim down though, and you're doing well, by the way. But if you come to Chicago, that's going to be erased. I'm going to tell you that right now. You're just going to be like, probably you're going to have to work twice as hard after you leave, but it'll be worth it, Willie. That tastes so good.
Well, today is a Ozempic day for me, so and I haven't eaten yet today. So when I have my nice meal today, I'll take my Ozempic shot. So,
all right.
I want to warn people. In case there's having some internet issues, not at the CASA, it's with the company. Their network buggery is paraphrasing, but so I may dippity doodle every once in a while, it just I wish if your internet went out, you could go out like you were being like teleported, like in Star Trek, where it's just like and then you disappear. That would be cool.
They ought to offer that as an option, instead of just having you there, or even worse, like with an eye half closed and like that, and yeah. But you could do something like, yeah, I mean, but I think that wish that they could program AI to do that and just have you teleport. But
yeah, I think they could probably, well, yeah, I mean, then you got to deal with the AI overlords, and that's a whole story, but we got a lot to get to here today, Willie.
We do.
We do business on this show, Willie.
We do real business. Oh, look at here. Ellen Jimerson's in the house. Look, we got a lot of good folks. We got Snipe Hunter. We got Ellen Jimerson. We got STVGI. We got Peace Dove. We got, let me see. We got Poppy 434. We got Chuck UFO Show. We got Ghost Start on the Rumbly Tumblies. We got CBC Voter. We got Miguel H. Yeah, we got a full house. It's so exciting to see everybody. Thank you all for coming out.
Yeah, and I want to remind people, Ellen, do yourself a flavor and drop the link to your YouTube channel.
Please do. Drop that right in. And
she's got a new show. It's called Moving Parts.
Yes, it looks really interesting.
I don't know if it's regularly on Tuesdays, but she does a live show. So yeah, definitely check that out.
Yeah, drop that off and we'll share it for you.
Okay, cool.
Put it in the comments. Yeah.
Oh, look at this Sweetums remark. Oh no, that's a Sweetums one. But looky here, 3 of my favorite podcasters in one place.
No,
thank you.
Special.
You get that. What's that? Oh, it's CBC. Did we say hi to CBC?
We did. We're saying hello to everybody.
Very good.
It's good to see folks. Well, we got a lot of news to talk about, though.
Yeah, we got some STD, not that, but shit to do. All right, it's a rip. Hey, stop it.
What you been getting up to, Uncle Warren?
You're the devil, not me. Wait a minute. Okay. All right. So let's get everybody kept. We got a lot of stuff to get to. Although, how long can you stay, Willie? You got a couple of days?
I'm on vacation this week, and so okay. I'm here all afternoon.
All right. Well, if the broad has to drop off, we can.
No, not at
we
all.
can go. We can go to sunset. We're gonna do a marathon. The broad.
But what I'm doing right now is I'm forwarding this on my. I forgot to forward this on my Twitter channel, my Twitter thing. So
how dare you?
Yeah, I know. I'm correcting that right this second.
What's up with your Twitter thing, Willie?
Huh?
What's up with your Twitter thing?
Oh, I'm being shadow banned.
Oh well, yeah. That feel that as well. Yeah. Well, let's get to it. Let's get to the news while you're twittering your finger bad, whatever that thing is. Thanks, Ellen. All right, so Iran captures 2 vessels in the Strait of Hormuz after ship comes under fire. This is after Taco said, "All right, we'll extend the ceasefire." He did it on a Tuesday, so that made it Taco Tuesday. That's why I put the thing in there. See, because anyway, Trump always chickens out. Do you know the taco thing? Or is that okay? Is this thing on? Iran has captured 2 foreign commercial vessels in the Strait of Hormuz and moved them to its coast in a further escalation that comes hours after Trumpy said he would extend a ceasefire with Tehran. Oh, look at that. So Trump does something. He's all right, let's extend the ceasefire. They're like, nah, let's do some more. I knew this was going to be crazy like this. So the IRGC said vessels had violated maritime regulations and entered the strategic waterway without coordination, according to the Iranian state media. The capture follows Wednesday's incident in which an Iranian gunboat fired on a container vessel near Oman, according to the UK Maritime Trade Operations. That's Akamuro. I don't think they say that. Center. The British Maritime Monitoring Agency said the ship's captain reported that the ship had been approached by an IRGC vessel before shots were fired. So all this after the deadline for the last ceasefire was today, and I don't know how long they extended it for. Oh, here we go. So Trump earlier announced he would delay a planned military attack on Iran after requests from Pakistan's Army Chief Asim Munir and Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif. So but we'll see how long it is. So doesn't really say how long the ceasefire is. Maybe it's another 2 weeks. So anyway, so that's going on. Willie, I know you have some opinions on what's been going on here in the United States, but I don't know if I've really heard much of your take on what's going on in Iran. Do you think we're winning? Is Trump telling us the truth for once, or is Iran?
I don't know if Trump is familiar with the concept of truth. The only truth he believes in is his own personal truth. But Iran is winning the public relations war. I mean, for damn sure. And he might could win some major battles, but Iran is basically winning this thing, and his damn pride is what's going to ultimately harm him, and it's going to ultimately harm this country. And what Iran is, he as long as he keeps listening to his neocon, core supporters, not that his MAGA base that he originally listened to were wonderful people, but those who were truly American first and non-interventionists that he basically dumped, and he keeps listening to the Lindsey Grahams. Not only is it going to be bad for the United States, it's going to be bad for human civilization itself. So, he ended up surpassing George W. Bush at this point, being the worst president we ever had.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you say, Lainey?
Yeah. This is it's what we all said was going to happen. We all said that, Iran was going to make this as painful as possible. And for what? And we know why Iran's doing it, but how is this benefiting us? This is just making things, it's more unstable. Everything is flip-flopping every other day. It keeps people off balance, off kilter, confused. And when people are like that, they will often just retreat. They become numb to what's going on, and it's bad for morale. I mean, we knew this was going to happen. And this is nothing, we saw that we foresaw this. And there is Uncle Warren, because as Uncle Warren did predict earlier, he might lose contact. So apparently they've been having some weather problems up in Chicago. And what's been happening is when he was getting ready to go start the show today, he was told that the internet was going to be out until something like 12:30 Central Time. And then we were preparing for Metis to come on in here and do this. And unfortunately, it looks like he got on and now he's gone again. So we will continue on, Willie, won't we?
I think we'll let the show go on, and hopefully he's going to come back. So
yeah, hopefully he will come back. So let me see. I have never done this before. So let's see what I can do here. We've got we're going to pull this up. I've never done this. And if we're not able to get this going, the way we want it to, we can just talk about these stories as we pop them up. So let's share the story right here. Do you remember, Willie, back when we were kids, when we had the hostage crisis going on?
I remember it very well. 1979, 1980. Yeah.
And could these stop putting these stupid ads in here? All right. This is from The Cradle. And this is a story that Uncle Warren found for us. U.S. Navy seizes Iran-linked commercial vessel in Asia Pacific as Tehran blasts Washington's piracy. So, yeah, we're just basically going forth and stealing each other's battleships or cargo ships. Remember the old commercials for Battleship?
I do remember that. I had the game when I was growing up.
It was a fun game. The U.S. military stormed and seized what it said was an Iranian-linked vessel in Asia Pacific overnight, according to a statement released by the Department of War on 21st of April. Oh Lord, the Department of, they actually have an X account under Department of War. Overnight, U.S. forces conducted a right of visit, maritime interdiction, and boarding of the stateless sanctioned MT Tiffany without incident in the Indo-PACOM area of responsibility. As we have made clear, we will pursue global maritime enforcement efforts to disrupt illicit something, something, something. Overnight, and illicit networks and interdict sanctioned vessels providing material support to Iran anywhere they operate. Well, that's a good use of our resources. It added that international waters are not a refuge for sanctioned vessels, and the U.S. will continue to deny illicit actors and their vessels freedom of maneuver in the maritime domain. The Iranian Foreign Ministry responded, calling the U.S. seizure an act of piracy and terrorism. This action, which was accompanied by intimidation of the sailors and crew, oh, would you stop? The crew of the ship and their families, is maritime piracy and a terrorist act, and is another example of a clear violation of the ceasefire agreement, considered an act of aggression against the Islamic Republic of Iran. Iran will use all its capabilities to defend Iran's national interests and security and protect the rights and dignity of Iranians. Obviously, the full responsibility for the further complication of the situation in the region lies with the U.S., the Iranian Foreign Ministry added. The new seizure coincides with conflicting reports on Tehran's participation in the second round of truce talks with the U.S. being hosted by Pakistan on Tuesday. Iranian state television said no Iranian delegation has arrived in Islamabad yet, while Al Arabiya reported that both Iran, Tehran, and Washington's teams have arrived. Trump, by imposing a blockade and violating the ceasefire, seeks to, in his own imagination, turn the negotiating table into a table of surrender or to justify renewed warmongering. We do not accept negotiations under the shadow of threat, and over the past 2 weeks, we have been preparing to unveil new cards on the battlefield, Iranian Parliament Speaker Mohammad Baghir Ghalibaf said earlier on 21 April. A day earlier, Iran's foreign ministry said it had no plans to attend the talks. The U.S. seizure of the vessel early on Tuesday comes days after Washington attacked one of Iran's commercial vessels in the Sea of Oman. Iran's military vowed to retaliate. The 2-week ceasefire between Iran and the U.S. is set to expire on Wednesday. On Sunday, which is, by the way, today, on Sunday, U.S. President Donald Trump renewed his threat to attack Iranian power stations and bridges if the Islamic Republic does not agree to Washington's terms for agreement. Well, his diplomatic skills are exactly where I thought they were going to be. What do you say, Willie?
Well, as I said, well, he certainly broke his promise about no new wars, and he's not familiar. He's proven he's not familiar with the art of making a deal. I mean that certainly is not being put in the equation, because that's not how you make deals right there.
No, it's not. And frankly, I mean, if I were the folks in Pakistan who are trying to broker all this, I'd be pretty disgusted.
I would be too. And the thing about it is, on a public relations standpoint overall, I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, you have a government like Iran that's not known for human rights overall. So you took a government like Iran, and you got a Western world that's look at Iran, and you managed to make the Western world feel sorry for Iran, and they are right to feel sorry for Iran in the sense that the United States is clearly the bully. You bully this country, you vilified this country, because, and it goes back to the fact that Donald Trump wanted to appease a certain base of the party, and that was the secular neocons and the evangelical Christians that have an overlapping muscular foreign policy that wants to, different reasons, but they kind of wanted to, they want that heavy Middle Eastern presence.
Yeah. This is not the way to broker anything. as I said, this is not the ceasefire is proven to be a joke.
Right.
Israel has, said doesn't really apply to us, and we've got that back and forth. Iran has no reason to trust us. Nobody around the world has any reason to trust us. We're making things worse for everybody else. And again, if I were the folks in Pakistan, I'd be thoroughly disgusted at this point.
Yeah, yes, and and pretty much, it's hard to believe, but right? I mean, we were really respected around the world 2 years ago. I mean, I was never really a Biden fan, but we were respected around the world 2 years ago in ways that we're at best a joke today around the world. But really, the world hate us today. I mean, with good reason.
For very good reason. And as I've said before, I think that many people around the world see the U.S. as having squandered every opportunity we were given. And I've talked about, we are these raging we're a raging adolescent country at this point that is nothing but a bunch of spoiled teenagers. And we have completely squandered what we've been given, and now we're actively harming others. And the world is seeing us that way. And we haven't grown up. And when teenagers refuse to grow up, they're usually socially ostracized. And in terms of geopolitics, there's where we are.
Yeah, and that is where we're at. I mean, and public relations around the world. I mean, not even the Western countries want anything to do with us anymore. I mean, they're just wanting to. I mean, there are like travel advisory warnings about traveling to the United States.
Yeah, and I can understand that. I mean, we know, for example, that ICE agents have been running around, targeting people based on physical appearance. They don't even have necessarily the evidence that this individual is somebody who needs to be targeted for detention. They've been doing this based on physical appearance. I wouldn't, if I came over, if I were from another country and I came over here, I wouldn't want to have to deal with any of this.
Yeah,
the very risk of this happening. And yes, there have been folks who look very much like you and I, Willie, who have fallen into the hands of ICE.
And imagine somebody who looks very Mediterranean from, let's say Italy or Spain.
Or has an accent.
With an olive complexion, who are, I mean, they're definitely white, Caucasian, or whatever, but they have an olive complexion, therefore Middle Eastern look or something, and therefore ICE is going to go after them,
Yeah, and it's also even happened to folks from I think somebody from, was it Ireland? She got taken in
England.
Was England, okay.
England, yes. An English grandmother.
Yeah, it was just awful. So, here we are. So let's move on to our next story. I hope Uncle Warren's okay. I'm watching my phone here to see if I hear from him, but hopefully he'll be coming on back. So what we have here is, good Lord, there's a woman with purple hair on my screen. So Democrat accused of stealing money from disaster funds resigns from House. So Democratic Representative Sheila Trifilius McCormick resigned on Tuesday, minutes before a congressional committee was set to hold a hearing on her punishment for ethics violations. Her departure immediately expands Republicans' narrow majority to 2017 to 2013 with an independent who caucuses with Republicans and 4 vacancies. In a social media post announcing her resignation, Trifilius McCormick slammed the chamber's ethics review as a witch hunt, calling it an unfair process that gave her insufficient time to defend herself. I simply cannot stand by and allow my due process rights to be trampled on and my good name to be tarnished, Trifilius McCormick said. Rather than play these political games, I choose to step away so that I can devote my time to fighting for my neighbors in Florida's 20th district. In her resignation letter, Trifilius McCormick said it was in her best interest of her and her constituents to step down, but that she remained committed to a smooth transition to ensure continuity of service for those in her district. The Ethics Committee was poised to take up sanctions against Trifilius McCormick, who was charged by the Department of Justice with allegedly stealing federal disaster funds. Trifilius McCormick has denied wrongdoing. The hearing lasted less than 5 minutes. 2 seats for Chiflis McCormick and her attorney remained empty as Ethics Committee Chairman Michael Guest, a Mississippi Republican, announced the panel no longer had jurisdiction over the case given Chiflis McCormick's resignation. But he defended the committee's work, saying the panel investigated extremely serious and complicated allegations without a rush to judgment. A congressional subcommittee found clear and convincing evidence that Chiflis McCormick was guilty of 25 violations related to campaign finance laws and regulations, ethics laws and regulations, and House of Representative rules. The Department of Justice indicted Chiflis McCormick in November, charging her with stealing $5 million in federal disaster funds and using the money to support her congressional campaign. The Department of Justice said Chiflis McCormick's family healthcare company was overpaid $5 million in federal emergency management agency funds in July of 2021. Prosecutors alleged Chiflis McCormick and others funneled the money through multiple accounts and used them as campaign contributions for her congressional run. Chiflis McCormick, whose federal trial is set to begin in February, faces up to 53 years in prison if convicted. Her resignation comes the week after 2 lawmakers, Eric Swalwell, a California Democrat, and Tony Gonzalez, a Texas Republican, resigned in disgrace following accusations of sexual misconduct. Another member, Republican Representative Corey Mills of Florida, is also under an ethics investigation for alleged sexual misconduct. Asked whether to expect Mills to soon resign, a House Republican leadership aide replied, "These are individual cases, and every member will get due process." Guest told reporters after the brief hearing that the investigation into Mills is ongoing, but he said he hopes that the rising number of resignations in recent days signal to Americans that Congress will hold its members accountable. For once, members that conduct bad conduct, whatever that conduct may be, those members are going to be held accountable, Guest said. This body is willing to expel members who violate the rules and who bring distrust upon this institution. All right. Well, that sounds bad.
I would say it does. I don't care what party somebody belongs to. If there's wrongdoing, I'm for them being disciplined in whatever fashion and all that. Because there's too much corruption, and it's done by both parties.
Yeah, and the idea of taking federal disaster funds, which are supposed to be going to help the people, and potentially, allegedly funneling them into an election campaign, it's pretty awful by any standard. And not only are you taking that money from people who need it, but you're using it to puff up an election campaign, thus undermining our system of elections here in this country.
It's all the more reason why we need some serious campaign finance reforms and serious cleaning up of the system, too. In a way that'll be as close to foolproof as possible to minimize this sort of thing.
Yeah. This is, and then we got an even worse story coming up here. And by the way, if you're not following us, check us out on our Substack. I'm going to put a link in here to all of our links and putting that into the comments. Check out our Substack, because every week that newsletter provides for everybody a full list of all the stories, all the articles that we are citing in these shows. We do encourage you absolutely to check out those articles, check out our sources, check out what we're talking about, so you can make up your own mind about that. But you can head over to our link tree and you'll find all of our information there. All right, so this one is a doozy, and I am not sure right now what I think of it, but let's go up into this share screen. Where are we? Sorry, folks, this is not my normal wheelhouse. Uncle Warren usually does this and does a fantastic job. Okay, Southern Poverty Law Center is charged with defrauding donors with payments to extremist informants. I was at the gym last night watching this on Fox News because that's what they had on. And okay, for those of you who are not familiar, Southern Poverty Law Center has been known for decades as an organization that fights hateful groups, hate groups in this country, and that will go to bat for people, particularly poor people who have been victimized by these organizations. So here we go. Southern Poverty Law Center charged with defrauding donors with payments to extremist informants. Southern Poverty Law Center was indicted Tuesday on federal fraud charges, alleging it improperly raised millions of dollars to secretly pay leaders of the Ku Klux Klan and other hate groups for inside information, Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche said. The Justice Department alleges the civil rights group defrauded donors by using their money to fund the very extremism it claimed to be fighting, with more than $3 million paid to informants through a now defunct program to infiltrate white supremacist and other extremist groups. Prosecutors allege some of the money was used by extremists to carry out other crimes, but court papers did not include specific examples. The SPLC was not dismantling these groups. It was instead manufacturing the extremism it purports to oppose by paying sources to stoke racial hatred, Blanche said. The civil rights group faces charges of wire fraud, bank fraud, and conspiracy to commit money laundering in the case it brought in the federal court in Alabama, where the organization is based. The indictment came shortly after the SPLC revealed the existence of a criminal investigation into its disbanded informant program to gather intelligence on extremist group activities. The group said the program was used to monitor threats of violence, and the information was often shared with local and federal law enforcement. The SPLC said it will vigorously defend ourselves, our staff, and our work against what it described as false allegations. The group said its informant program saved lives. Taking on violent hate and extremist groups is among the most dangerous work there is, and we believe that it is also among the most important work we do, interim CEO and President Brian Fair said in a statement. The actions by the Department of Justice will not shake our resolve to fight for justice and ensure the promise of the civil rights movement becomes a reality for all. The program dated back to the 1980s. The Justice Department alleges the SPLC made false statements to banks in order to set up accounts used to funnel money to informants. The group created bank accounts for fictitious entities such as Fox Photography and Rare Books Warehouse that were used to send money from donors to informants in a scheme to conceal the money's actual purpose, the indictment alleges. Prosecutors say the group never disclosed to donors details of the informant program. They're required under the laws associated with a nonprofit to have certain transparency and honesty in what they're telling donors they're going to spend money on and what their mission statement is and what they're raising money doing, Blanche said. The indictment includes details on at least 9 unnamed informants who were paid by the SPLC through a secret program that prosecutors say began in the 1980s. With the SPLC, they were known as field sources, or the Fs, according to the indictment. One informant was paid more than $1 million between 2014 and 2023, while affiliated with neo-Nazi National Alliance, the indictment said. Prosecutors say another informant was a member of the online leadership chat group that planned the 2017 white nationalist Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia. The informant attended the rally at the discretion of the SPLC, at the direction, of the SPLC, according to the indictment, and helped coordinate transportation for several others. That person was allegedly paid more than $270,000 between 2015 and looks like there's a typo here. So I'm not sure whether that was 2015 and can't say what that is. The SPLC said the program was kept quiet to protect the safety of informants. When we began working with informants, we were living in the shadow of the height of the civil rights movement, which had seen bombings at churches, state-sponsored violence against demonstrators, and the murders of activists that went unanswered by the justice system, Fair said. There is no question that what we learned from informants saved lives. The center has been targeted by Republicans. The SPLC, which is based in Montgomery, Alabama, was founded in 1971 and used civil litigation to fight white supremacist groups. The nonprofit has become a popular target among Republicans who see it as overly leftist and partisan. The investigation could add to concerns that Trump's Republican administration is using the Justice Department to go after conservative opponents and his critics. It follows a number of other investigations into Trump foes that have raised questions about whether the law enforcement agency has been turned into a political weapon. The SPLC has faced intense criticism from conservatives who have accused it of unfairly maligning right wing organizations as extremist groups because of their viewpoints. The center regularly condemns Trump's rhetoric and policies around voting rights, immigration, and other issues. The center came under fresh scrutiny after the assassination last year of conservative activist Charlie Kirk brought renewed attention to its characterization of the group that Kirk founded and led. The center included a section on that group, Turning Point USA, in a report entitled The Year in Hate and Extremism 2024 that described the group as a case study of the hard right in 2024. FBI Director Kash Patel said last year that the agency was severing its relationship with the center, which had long provided law enforcement with research on hate crime and domestic extremism. Patel said the center had been turned into a partisan smear machine, and he accused it of defaming mainstream Americans with its hate map that documents alleged anti-government and hate groups inside the United States. House Republicans hosted a hearing centered on the SPLC in December, saying it coordinated efforts with President Joe Biden's Democratic administration to target Christian and conservative Americans and deprive them of their constitutional rights to free speech and free association.
It's really built the trust. So whenever we build a data product or asset, governance is
turn that off. All right, what do you say, Willie?
Okay. Kash Patel talking about targeting mainstream people. Okay. I mean, if you're talking about targeting mainstream Republican politicians or Republican, like elected politicians or media type persons or what have you, maybe it would be unfair, but there's a lot of, when you're talking about certain movements within the Republican Party, and I hate the two-party system, but I do consider the Republican Party worse than the Democrats still, and I hate the two-party system, but there's a lot of extremism, and when the Southern Poverty Law Center, I feel like when they are targeting some of these crazy people, that they do have grounds for it. I had a phone call personally about 22 years ago from somebody from the SPLC. I'm going to give you a personal story about that because I had a friend in college that was a progressive that ended up becoming kind of a high profile figure on the far right. And he's not going to watch the show. He belongs to an organization called AliPac. I don't know if you ever heard of AliPac.
I have not heard.
Yeah, it's an anti-immigration organization, and he anyway. This individual, he's known for his anti-immigration rhetoric, and I mean, like really, really extreme anti-immigration rhetoric, and so I was asked about this person because as I said, I didn't want to. There was things I know about this person that I didn't want to volunteer too much information about because I didn't want a lawsuit against me. But I gave as much. As I said, I'm not ranting, but I do think this person is extremist. But I didn't want to say things that I know about this person is true. That's going to end up being a lawsuit against me because it'd be my word against him. But the point is that the SPLC, when they target some of these people, I feel like that is valid, and I don't particularly feel like they're partisan or what have you. I don't, and that's kind of where I stand on that. And just I just think that they're trying to delegitimize the threat of extreme right-wing extremism in this country. And I mean, and this is why you're hearing Antifa rhetoric and all of that, and always this campaign on, oh, it's the left, this the violent ones, and all of this sort of thing. And the left has no real power in this country, which they did, but they don't. You know, the way that the left needs, I mean, not that I'm saying that the left needs to be violent, because I'm opposed to violence, but, you know, that's kind of where I'm standing.
Yeah, I think I have a number of concerns. I mean, our friend Ellen Jimison is bringing some things up here, is that, you know, she feels that has abandoned the poverty focus to favor offshoring millions. And we know that when organizations get really big, this sort of thing can absolutely happen. I think, you know, I not that I particularly trust this or any other administration to be particularly honest about this sort of thing. But if they were, you know, if there's a not-for-profit organization, they have to meet certain requirements with their funds. And there, you know, even common sense things that you might want to do, you're limited when you're a not-for-profit organization. And if they were, you know, they were committed, you know, this may not have been intended as bank fraud, but they were not following the law, and that was a risky move on their part. Also, the fact that they were paying informants. We know that paying informants has its own set of problems because many times the informants are perfectly willing to take money. You can't always trust them to do the right thing. You can't always trust them to provide good information. They may be laughing all their way to the bank. And this is reminding me of sometimes when local law enforcement agencies will have the gun buybacks, and people will come and they'll bring guns, and they get, you know, they get money for them, and they, you know, go out and buy other guns that are also used in crime. And again, you've got these people who are already members of these organizations, which makes them morally suspect. They're willing to, for a price, inform on that organization, and then they're taking that money and bringing it to that organization, which then has the money to spend on nefarious activities. I'm not sure that I find this the best strategy. Particularly a non-governmental organization. Not saying again that the government's all that great, but this is even one step further from that, and I have my concerns.
Yeah, sometimes some of these informants might have a beef within them with other members of an organization, you know, a score to settle, and they'll try to inform to get rid of somebody over a leadership position or whatever, and they'll say something about that person to get rid of that person, so they'll go and take over. So sometimes there's that aspect too.
Yeah, and that's a lot of money that's being funneled in here. Yeah. And Ellen's making some interesting points here. You know, if they're accumulating all this money, that money is not being used to fight poverty. And it's not, you know, it's, again, that money is landing somewhere other than in the areas for the benefit of the people that they're claiming to serve. And that's the thing that always manages to upset me when it comes, whether it's a government program or whether it's a charitable organization, when there's a lot more money, you know, in going into administrative salaries or into offshore bank accounts or huge buildings that are not necessarily required for this work. And it's not ending up either in the pockets of the poor or in service of the poor. I have my questions. I don't particularly trust this Justice Department to handle this case well. But if this is bringing to our attention what can happen, even to organizations that started out with very, very good intentions, I have my concern. Ellen is saying exactly, not being used to fight poverty. The first time I went to their offices in Montgomery, now dubbed the Poverty Palace, it shocked me. It is indeed a palace.
Not that I believe in virtue signaling, but that does give a bad kind of bad a message right there if if the building is looking too polished and professional. It does give kind of a kind of bad messaging about what it's become. It looks too institutionalized and everything.
Yeah, it's not saying it isn't a legit investigation, but it's definitely a distraction. That's absolutely the case. I mean, I was listening to NPR this morning, and I think Kash Patel was saying, these are that they're not, the Southern Poverty Law Center is not fighting the so-called, I think he was referring to them as so-called extremist groups. And come on, we know that some of these groups are absolutely, the Klan is an extremist group. The National Front, whatever you want to call it, they are extremist groups. They need to be they need to be investigated. But again, is the Southern Poverty Law Center in a position to do that? And I think that's a good question. Maybe Ellen, I'm just going to shout you out right here. Maybe you'd be interested in coming on the show sometime to talk about this sort of thing. Let me know. Absolutely. We're going to move on to our next story. Arizona utility agrees not to cut off power for non-payment when it's 95 degrees Fahrenheit or above. Well, that's a headline.
Yep.
So let's do this. We got extreme heat warning. Arizona's largest utility has agreed not to cut off electrical service to customers for non-payment, while forecasted high temperatures are 95 degrees Fahrenheit, 35 degrees Celsius, or above, as part of a $7 million settlement of a lawsuit prompted in part by the 2024 death of an 82-year-old woman whose power was disconnected, Attorney General Chris Mays said Wednesday. The state's settlement with Arizona Public Service, which previously prohibited shutoffs because of non-payment between June 1st and October 15th, also called for the utility to pay $2.7 million that will be deposited into a state consumer protection fund and another $3.4 million to improve a program that lets customers designate family members or friends as emergency contacts who can receive notices in a bid to help prevent shutoffs, including sending text messages to inform customers of delinquent bills and disconnection notices. Stop that. May's office said the lawsuit grew out of concerns about disconnection practices during extreme heat, including the death of Catherine Corman at her Sun City West home. Her service was cut off in mid-May 2024 because of non-payment on a day when the daily high temperature in her area reached about 99 degrees Fahrenheit, 37 degrees Celsius. She was found dead 6 days later after her power was disconnected. APS said it made 10 attempts to contact Corman by phone, email, door hanger, and monthly bills to let her know the status of her bill and offer help. The utility said regulators who examined the case determined APS had followed the rules on customer outreach and connection. No Arizonan should be at risk because they cannot afford their electric bill, Mays says in a statement. This settlement ensures that APS will no longer disconnect power based on the date on the calendar alone. If temperatures are dangerous, the power stays on. APS, which didn't acknowledge any wrongdoing as part of the settlement, said in a statement that it had already met or exceeded state laws and regulations in its disconnection policies and customer communications. Our entire team at APS prioritizes customer safety and cares deeply about the well-being of our customers and community, the utility said. The agreement specifies the payments from the settlement must come from APS shareholder funds and that they can't be recovered through future rate increases or surcharges. If APS wants to spend additional shareholder funds, it is free to do so, Douglas Clark, executive director of the Arizona Corporation Commission, said in a statement. The consent agreement makes it clear that this payment is outside the regulatory framework and will not be passed on to ratepayers. Maricopa County, which includes the city of Phoenix, confirmed 430 heat-related deaths last year, and a decrease from 608 in 2024 and 645 in 2023. The county's first confirmed heat-related death in 2026 was announced last week. Okay. Yeah. And here's the thing. This is only about disconnection of service that is still on. This does not offer protection for folks who have already had their service turned off. And there are still whole groups of people out there whose service has been turned off. And then a few days later or a few weeks later, this, the temperature goes up. They're not protected by this. And at that point, I don't even know what kind of contact they have with the utility company, because they're technically, I guess, no longer a customer. And this is one area, one thing that clearly, I'm stunned at this point.
Well, I mean, they have, as a public relations nightmare for them that the 82-year-old lady died, and if I'm not mistaken, I look at a country like Iceland. I know that they basically have, if not free electricity, close to free electricity in their home because of what they call it, the volcanoes, the thermo, whatever. They have pretty much unlimited source of energy, what have you. That nobody goes without heat when they need it, or air when they need it in the summer, what have you. I mean, which it's just because of their high quality life in that country. But it's pretty damn cruel to deny people air conditioned during these excruciating humid summers. Of course, I know that Arizona has that dry heat that's not as bad as these humid summers down here in the South where I live, in North Carolina. But I don't know. It just, it's bad public relations for them in Arizona, and I think that they know that, and they're trying to correct that. That's how I'm looking at it.
Yeah, I think for me, it comes down to when they made the attempts to notify this lady, and I understand that happens, and that they did everything that they thought they had an obligation to do, except of course keep the electricity on when the temperatures became dangerously hot, which is a common thing in Arizona. It's not like this is something that is unusual. This is not like this is happening in, say, a Midwestern or or northern state where temperatures don't usually get that bad. And again, this is where if you have somebody, a person is living in a situation where it is going to be dangerous for them to be without temperature regulation in their own home, it seems to me the more obvious thing to do is to do welfare checks. That brings, you contact the Department of Elder Services or whatever the case is and have them come visit to assess the situation. You don't turn off the electricity when you know that there's a vulnerable person in there, and you don't turn it off when you are anticipating extreme temperatures. And it just makes sense that if a person is unable or unwilling to keep their temperature at home at a safe temperature, some intervention is necessary. And he's to say, okay, why aren't you paying the bill? Somebody else needs to pay the bill. What is going on here? There are utility bill payment services available. Now they're limited, and you have to apply for them. You have to apply for them early. The funds will run out. That sort of thing will happen. But what is also being done to prevent this kind of scenario from ever happening? Because again, once those utilities are shut off, even programs like they're describing here are not going to be in place, or are not there to help. They're not going to be able to help. This is about keeping disconnection. This is preventing disconnection. It doesn't get anything turned back on. And in some cases, people might have hundreds, if not thousands of dollars in bills that they can't pay.
I wasn't even aware they had some of these services available to help out people when, they're in need.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And where was an attempt? I mean, I understand they were sending her things in bills, but if somebody is not responding, that person may not be able to respond. That person may have a disability. The person may be mentally ill. There may be a language barrier. You don't know what is going on in that house. And this is, again, where I think governments, local governments, have to work with utility companies to be far more aggressive and say, hey, what's going on here? And unfortunately, that did not happen in this particular case. And I'm glad to see that some precautions are being put into place, some processes, but this is not enough. And it's happening in Arizona, but it's a problem all over the country.
It is. Yeah, this is why when I'm retiring, I'm planning to find ways to live off the grid, kind of this is the sort of problem I want to kind of avoid when I get a little bit older in my elderly years. So this is kind of good to know. Some things to avoid later on in life if such a misfortune, kind of has the potential of happening.
Yeah. And just to everybody here, find out, know who your neighbors are. This is where neighbors really do need to be checking in on each other. And if you have a situation where you think that somebody is vulnerable and the weather is going to be bad, that may be the time to check with them, to talk to if they have kids or relatives who are checking in on them, talk with them, but figure out a way to keep these folks safe. All right, so now we're coming in to the catch of the day, and unfortunately, Uncle Warren is not here to be switching up the screen here, but we are here to talk with, and Willie wanted to come in and talk about, first of all, Trump versus the Pope and what's going on in Hungary. So, Willie, you want to take it away?
Yeah, for starters, a couple of things. One, you have basically the Pope calling for peace among nations, something that not just the Catholic Church, but just any decent Christian person would just want a peaceful resolve to this conflict in the Middle East, and they're telling the Pope to stay in his lane. And you have Sean Hannity basically telling the Pope that he should basically read the Bible, and he's leaving the Catholic Church as a result of the Pope preaching left-wing politics. When the Catholic Church, there's a spot for progressives in the Catholic Church, but Sean Hannity thinks that the Catholic Church is this leftist institution that's very pro-life on abortion, and they're not receptive to same-sex marriage, and they're anti-birth control, and all. I mean, and I'm not
don't ordain women.
Do not ordain women in the clergy. I mean, you think you still manage to think that that's a left-wing entity. I don't know what to say about it. It's ridiculous, the Catholic Church is. It's not right wing like, let's say, John Hagee. I'm not trying to say one denomination is better than the other, but it's but it's just when I think about it, it's like he's more loyal to Trump than he is to Christianity. I don't want to say more loyal to the Catholic Church, but you're going to leave a church because of a dumb president. I mean, that to me, that is highly offensive.
Well, when J.D. Vance was saying that the Pope needs to read up on his theology, and J.D. Vance is a convert, I think, of something like 7 years, and telling the Pope to read up on his theology for making statements about saber rattling, and particularly in a nuclear age, it was laughable. It was disrespectful, in my opinion. I'm not a Roman Catholic, by the way. But I have been saying, and I've been saying this for a little bit, that we are starting to see some real fissures that are breaking up in the supposedly conservative religious community that Trump likes to look at for his base. We have seen, for example, the whole Israel Zionism thing, that there are whole groups of Christians who are not Zionists and who are actively opposed to Zionism, particularly many of the Reformed theonomists out there who do not believe that the nation of Israel is in fact Israel, ordained by God. They believe that the Christian church replaced Israel as the people of God. And you saw it. We've seen Pete Hegseth, who is part of that particular religious movement. We saw that on Good Friday there was no Roman Catholic Mass at the Pentagon. The services were Protestant, or it was actually there was no Roman Catholic service, I should say, at the Pentagon. It was Protestant Christian services that were taking place at that point. We see a lot of these Theo bros out there who support President Trump, who again are not Roman Catholic at all. So we've seen a lot of fractioning in that area, and now this is happening. The Pope Donald Trump is aiming at the Pope and trying to get into a fight with the Pope. J.D. Vance is getting into a fight with the Pope, and the Pope is expressing Catholic doctrine. Now, within the Catholic Church, there's a lot of infighting. There are some people who have completely they're ultra traditionalists who have left the church entirely. They have their own setups. And then there are those who remain within the Roman Catholic Church but are highly critical of the hierarchy. They are highly critical of what the reforms of Vatican II. And so there is that as well. And they oppose leftism. I don't know that Pope Leo is particularly left wing. He doesn't strike me as being so. But there is a Catholic social witness. There's been a long history of a Catholic social witness, Catholic social justice. The idea within Catholicism that unbridled capitalism is not a good thing. That yes, they support marriage between one man and one woman, lifetime marriage. They are opposed to contraception, but what they will say is that a just economy, men or people are able to earn enough money so that they can sustain a natural family. And the natural family is one man, one woman, and the children that are the fruit of that union. Now, not everybody agrees with that particular position, but nonetheless, they would argue that a just economy supports these households and supports these families. People should have care and love and support throughout their lives, from conception to natural death. And so that's very much a part of Catholic social teaching. And I believe that Pope Leo has been expressing this. So it's very disturbing. It's on one hand disturbing, but also not unexpected to see now Catholics and Protestants being pitted against each other because we have a presidential administration that has set itself against a pope.
Yeah. The thing is that Robert Provost, that's his name, Leo the 14th, he was a nominal Trump supporter prior to becoming the Pope. He was a Republican. But as I said, he was like the normie Republican, like the normal center-right, lukewarm conservative, not a MAGA type. And so he would not be labeled far left like Sean Hannity, people like that. Yeah. He was just a normie Republican, and he's definitely not for reproductive rights and all this sort of thing. But does he have some progressive positions? Probably favors universal health care. He's opposed to capital punishment, opposed to war, opposed, the whole consistent life ethics, which I'm pro-choice. Obviously, I support reproductive rights. I might not particularly like abortion personally, but I am reproductive rights. It's not my place as a man to tell a woman what she can do with her body, and I will never tell a woman what she can do. That's her choice. And how dare a man would tell a woman what to do? I'm not being woke or politically correct. That's a woman's decision.
Mhm.
You know, you know, but for those that believe in consistent life ethics, that's a more respectable position than I'm pro-life, but I support the death penalty and I support waterboarding. And when their baby's born, well, pull them up by their bootstraps. You know, you know, the Catholic position is better than the holy roller position of we care about the baby until the baby's born, and the baby's born, then fuck the baby, kind of.
And in some cases, literally. And
Yeah.
that is absolutely also a part of the Roman Catholic hierarchy.
Yeah.
So, some people have pointed out that, the Catholicism can speak about being child friendly, but sometimes that's not, the friendliness is not what we want it to be. I did want to bring this up. This was a story that I saw being from the Chicago area myself. Police investigate bomb threat at the home of Pope Leo's brother. The incident comes amid a brewing feud between President Donald Trump and the first American pontiff over the war with Iran. So the Illinois home of one of Pope Leo's brothers was the target of a bomb threat, which was found to be unsubstantiated, police said Thursday. The report came in at around 6:30 p.m. Wednesday. New Lenox police said they initially responded to the bomb threat at the home of John Prevost, one of Leo's older brothers, located about 40 miles southwest of Chicago. Police officers secured a perimeter around the house and surrounding homes were evacuated out of an abundance of caution. New Lenox police said in a news release Wednesday, they conducted a thorough search of the residence and surrounding property alongside specialized units that use explosive detection canines and determined the threat was unsubstantiated and that no explosive devices or hazardous materials were present. No one was injured, and evacuated residents were allowed to safely return to their homes afterwards. New Lenox Police Chief Micah D. Nussi told NBC News in an email Thursday that an investigation to determine the origin of the report remains active and ongoing. NBC News reached out to Prevost on Thursday, but did not immediately hear back. New Lenox police warned in their news release Wednesday that making false reports of this nature is a serious offense. It may result in criminal charges and encouraged anyone with information about the incident to contact their office. The incident comes amid an escalating feud between Leo and President Donald Trump over the first American pontiff's criticism of the war with Iran. It remains unclear whether the reported bomb threat is connected to any of these recent statements. Yeah. This is the first time this is the first time that we've had an American pope. And so I would be very interested in finding out if other countries have had this sort of thing happen with the relatives of other popes. And of course, I understand the New Lenox police had to investigate this. Oftentimes, these threats are unsubstantiated. It's just a crackpot who is, coming out and creating a ruckus. But every time it happens, it uses police resources. There's always the risk with these evacuations and police coming in of something going wrong. And so I'm glad that they're trying to figure out who did it. But it's, this is the kind of thing that we just don't need right now, Willie.
Yeah. Oh, I have perspective on that. No, I think that's unique to the United States. It's just, I know it's going to sound like, oh, there he goes blaming the United States again. But it's the culture, it's the political culture in this country. They don't like the Pope because he's woke. So some right-wing nutcase is going to go threaten the family. Yeah, that's what it's about. Because when the Pope is traditionally Italian, and this is or in the previous case Argentinian or Polish with John Paul II, what have you. No, they're not going to go after the family of the Pope or what have you. But here in America, some right-wing nutcase, they're going to do what they're going to do, and they're going to go and try to intimidate or what have you. This is not necessarily related to the Pope, but a fictional TV character. B. Arthur from Maude had a fictional abortion.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. Do you notice that B. Arthur had death threats in real life for having a fictional abortion?
I did not know that. I know that, Susan Lucci did also on All My Children.
Yeah.
And I don't remember that. I remember, also the case of Sherry, which was not a fictional abortion, Sherry Finkbein from Romper Room, a local affiliate of Romper Room. She had been given thalidomide during her pregnancy, which caused horrific birth defects, some of them which were not compatible with life. And I remember when the word got out that she had a pregnancy termination for that, what happened in this country. Everybody just went nuts. So that happened as well. Any case, it was disturbing to see this happening in New Lenox. I'm from the Chicago area. To see that this is happening and this is hitting home, I think this is something that we do need to keep an eye on, because I do think that a lot of this sectarian strife is being ginned up, very deliberately ginned up to get people angry with each other. We don't have a lot of that really in the U.S. to the extent that it exists in some other countries. But to see this happening here is quite disturbing.
Agreed. Yeah.
You also wanted to talk about what's going on with Viktor Orban and going on in Hungary.
Yes. Yes. I like to call him the Ron DeSantis. If Vladimir Putin is the Donald Trump of Europe, Viktor Orban was the Ron DeSantis of Europe. And Viktor Orban was defeated a couple of Sundays ago, and it was a great seeing him defeated. And there's a lot of people are acting like that the new president of Hungary, Peter Magyar, is some kind of a super woke person. Oh no, the George Soros people and the Barack Obamas and the Emmanuel Macrons and the Keir Starmers and the Hillary Clintons, they're all happy that the Viktor Orban was defeated. So there's apparently this woke individual named Peter Magyar that replaced him. But the dirty little secret is that Peter Magyar is a conservative, and his what's it called? His TISA party is center right versus Orban's Fidesz party, which is far right. So basically, it's kind of like if Ron DeSantis got defeated by Mitt Romney. That's basically what it was. That's basically what happened in Hungary. But even though I'm not center right, I'm kind of glad it happened. Mm-hmm. And it's better because he basically, when they were criticizing Mayor Mondani for making this extremist statement that if Benjamin Netanyahu set foot in New York City, he would have him arrested. Here
we go.
That anti-Semitic person doing that. Well, Peter Magyar, of course, said the same thing. And this is a moderate position to say if he sets foot in any of these countries. A lot of these Nordic countries saying if Benjamin Netanyahu sets foot in these countries, that war criminal will get arrested.
Yeah. Hungary's incoming prime minister, Peter Magyar, stated on April 20th that his government will arrest Israeli prime minister and wanted war criminal Benjamin Netanyahu if he visits, as Budapest reconsiders the previous government's plan to withdraw from the International Criminal Court, ICC. I made myself clear to the Israeli prime minister, too. We are not re-entering because my colleagues examined the matter and we can still stop withdrawal until 2nd of June, Magyar said. The prime minister-elect said his government intends to reverse Hungary's exit from the ICC before it takes effect, after legal advisors determined the withdrawal process remains incomplete and can still be stopped once his administration takes office. The firm intention of the Tizia government is to halt this process and ensure that Hungary remains a member of the ICC, he stated, adding, if someone is a member of the ICC and a person who is wanted enters our country, then they must be taken into custody. Well, duh. The ICC issued arrest warrants for Netanyahu and his former defense minister, Yoav Gallant, in November 2024 over his role in leading Israel's genocide against the Palestinian people in Gaza, with the warrant requiring member states to detain individuals sought by the court if they enter their territory. Magyar's remarks come despite having invited Netanyahu days earlier to attend a national commemoration later this year, raising questions over the apparent contradiction between the invitation and Hungary's stated legal obligations. I don't need to spell it out over the phone, Magyar added, referring to a call last week in which he invited Netanyahu to attend an October ceremony commemorating the 70th anniversary of the Hungarian uprising. He went on to say, I assume that every head of state and government is familiar with these laws. Magyar's position stands in direct contrast to that of his predecessor, former Prime Minister Viktor Orban, who refused to arrest Netanyahu during a 2025 visit and initiated Hungary's withdrawal from the ICC while guaranteeing him immunity. Earlier this year, Washington moved to shield Israeli officials from accountability, targeting those pursuing legal action over Gaza instead. Washington imposed terrorist-grade sanctions on ICC judges and UN Rapporteur Francesca Albanese, freezing assets and obstructing war crimes probes after she warned major U.S. tech firms, including Alphabet, Amazon, Lockheed Martin, and Microsoft, that their support for Israeli military operations could amount to gross violations of human rights in Gaza. Well, there we are.
Mm-hmm.
I just am going to say something here. Many of us, I think, when we grew up, moms, dads, grandmas, grandpas, aunties, teachers, watch the company you keep. So palling around with Netanyahu is not a real good look for the U.S. right now.
Not at all. Not at all. What's really crazy is that certain people in this country, they act like some people become almost like a godlike figure in this country, and I'm glad that the whole world sees him as an asshole. Just because he is objectively the Adolf Hitler in the 21st century. There's just no other way to put it. I don't care. I don't care what ethnic group he belongs to. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care. Don't care what his background is. He is an evil man. I don't believe in identity politics.
No.
He's not the only genocidal maniac that's ever that existed in history aside from Hitler. There are other people, King Leopold of Belgium, you name it, Pol Pot. There's a whole bunch of people in history that they were genocidal maniacs. So is Benjamin Netanyahu.
What do we got here? Thanks for everybody who's commenting in here. Say it again, I'll arrest you again. The old lady is from the river to the beach. Okay.
There you go.
Thank you for that. All right. Well, Willie, thank you so much for bringing up these topics. And we're happy to have you here. I'm happy to have you with us because we got other news that's coming up here, something that's hitting a bit more close to home, but I actually think is pretty important. U.S. tomato prices rise on tariffs, energy costs, and supply shortages. Tomato prices in the U.S. have increased in recent months due to tariffs, higher energy costs, and supply disruptions. The average retail price for field-grown tomatoes reached $2.26 per pound in March, the highest level in more than 8 years. Prices rose by 15% in March, following by a 6% increase in February, with an annual growth at 23%. Economists point to tariffs on imports from Mexico as a key factor. The U.S. imports around 70% of its tomato supply, with Mexico accounting for about 90% of those imports. Tariffs of about 17% on fresh Mexican tomatoes were introduced in July, affecting prices in the fresh produce category. So, retailers have absorbed a large part of the cost increases, but these are now being passed through to consumers. Remember, groceries, razor thin margins, same thing with restaurants. So they can only absorb so much. Limited substitution options for imported tomatoes have contributed to price pressure. Domestic supply has also been affected. Florida, the largest U.S. producer of fresh tomatoes, experienced winter freezes and storms between December 2025 and January 2026, reducing supply during the spring transition period. Production in Mexico has also been impacted by weather and disease, resulting in lower yields. Fresh tomato production in the U.S. is seasonal, with harvesting concentrated in warmer months, while Mexico supplies the market during winter and spring. Current supply conditions in both regions have tightened availability. Energy costs are adding to further pressure. The crude oil is up. Also, processed tomato products are less affected by the fresh tomato tariffs, but they face higher costs linked to metals such as steel and aluminum used in packaging. Prices for cans, fruits, and vegetables increased by about 6% year on year in March. I found this and I wanted to share it. I was checking out with Slate. Recently did a feature on the decline of the Florida orange. Florida is no longer able to produce oranges like it once did. Now we're finding it can no longer produce tomatoes, and getting tomatoes into this country is proving to be expensive through tariffs and the cost of the tariffs on metals, as well as tomatoes grown outside the U.S., but also the price of transporting it here. And tomatoes are a kind of a real staple in the U.S., and even canned stuff at this point. Again, canned foods, which is the foundational for many people. It's shelf-stable food. It is often, not always, but often more affordable than fresh produce. But it's still nutritious. You're going to get nutrition from it. If those prices continue to climb, what's happening to our food supply here in the U.S.?
Definitely is in question. And I've been stocking up, and not as a prepper per se, but always been just in case of any, and just in case there's always a crisis to have something on. It's always good to be prepared, and so I just look at the and I've always been a protectionist, but what Trump has done with these tariffs is he's used it irresponsibly in ways, just as in a form of a tantrum, to the point that once this Trump era is over, that when you need to do real tariffs next time, people are going to be like, oh, we can't do that because that's the sign of Trumpism. And what those tariffs did in the past. Tariffs work when they're done responsibly. But the problem with the tariffs is that Trump has used them irresponsibly, and this is why we're having expensive prices, because they're just used just because, because Trump is a very stupid man, and he's used it in irresponsible ways just because he wants to stroke his ego and make his sycophantic base go, yeah, America's number one, nationalism, silliness.
Love me some ramen. I really do. And there's some really great recipe creators on Instagram and TikTok will teach you all different ways to make your ramen and to make it taste better, make it more nutritious. Some good stuff out there. But yeah, I mean, I think it's when protectionism, okay, fine, but there's also being realistic. And if we can't produce our own, stuff, I remember they were trying to explain to Trump that no, America does not produce coffee and bananas. And they realized, okay, maybe putting tariffs on that sort of thing is an issue. But with things like tomatoes, very nutritious things, kids like tomatoes, popular ingredient in foods, spaghetti sauces, pizza sauces, canned tomatoes or salads, whatever. Lack of access to that is going to be, I think, just make things a little harder, a little more difficult. And for some people, it's going to push them right over the edge. And hey, Chuck is beaming on in here. Remember that one time when you all dumped all that tea into the Boston Harbor because of a tariff? By the way, what a lot of people don't necessarily know about, they actually had marshals at the Boston Tea Party. And if somebody was caught sneaking some tea into their pocket, they got a rap on the head. They wanted to. One of the things that people, when the Tea Party movement started in the U.S., where people were pointing out, people loved tea. People drank tea. They loved it here, and they were willing to give up something that they loved to stand on principle. And the protesters themselves were told, do not try and sneak any tea for yourself. This is not theft. This is an act of disobedience.
Yeah. I, as I said, what Trump has done, trying to do this without any kind of national economic domestic planning or anything in the economy is just going to end up being just disastrous down the road. I mean, and to the point of no return. We're screwed.
Yeah, we are. And no tomatoes. Come on, folks. Labor Secretary Lori Chavez DeRimmer leaves Trump cabinet. Keith Sonderling takes over. The Department of Labor Secretary Lori Chavez DeRimmer is resigning from the Trump administration, the White House said. The Deputy Labor Secretary Keith Sonderling will take over the department in an acting capacity. White House Communication Director Stephen Chang wrote. Her resignation follows the departures of other top officials in President Donald Trump's cabinet, including Homeland Secretary Kristi Noem and Attorney General Pam Bondi. Notice what they all have in common. And Chavez DeRimmer was reportedly facing an internal investigation into allegations that she used agency resources for personal trips and that she was having an affair with a member of her security team. I guess we could read the whole article, but do we really need to, Willie?
Yeah, I mean, not really. But I'm the Secretary of Labor. I'll tell you something about her. I was kind of optimistic about her a little bit because she did support the what's it called, the PRO Act as a Republican member in the U.S. House of Representatives. I was just like, why is Trump doing this? But I realized why he appointed her as the Secretary of Labor, and it was basically just for a show, because they have ways of being anti-labor in a ways that her position is just basically just to kind of show to the MAGA base that they're pro-labor when they're really not. So,
well, I'm disturbed on a number of counts. One of them is we are in a tumultuous time when it comes to the job market. In addition to the economic impact of the war with Iran, with the tariffs, disruptions in supply chains, we're also facing the changes brought by AI. So having somebody heading up our labor department who's good at what they do and consistent would it's kind of important right now.
Mm-hmm.
So this does disturb me. What also disturbs me is just this blatant nonsense of somebody, who's allegedly having an affair, this, that, and the other thing. Again, do any of these people bother to consider their behavior when they enter these roles, and the fact that some people are paying attention to them?
Well,
DC is a cesspool to begin with. Everybody who's watching it, and people know stuff, they're observing stuff, and they're waiting for the right time to disclose. Doesn't anybody sit down with these folks when they enter DC and explain this to them?
I guess they feel like they're above the law. They can get away with whatever they get away with. If they look at the man on the top, they see what he gets away with every he commits so much corruption right in front of our eyes every day. They feel like they can do whatever they want themselves.
Oh, indeed. So we're going to skip ahead. We're coming on about 12:30 point. Wow, we've been doing this for 90 minutes, Willie.
Yeah.
And we don't have Uncle Warren with us. I miss Uncle Warren. Yeah. He's so good at this sort of thing, but that's cool. All right, so we're going to bring this one up. And where did that go? This has to do with the what's going on with our postal system. And for those of you remember from what I was doing back in the day with Hardlands Media and Civically Minded, the Postal Service was kind of one of my beats. And so this is what we got going on. Amazon, USPS, and the risk of widening delivery divide in rural America. Key points. Amazon's planned 20% reduction in USPS volume is shifting the economics of package delivery, leaving fewer shipments to absorb the Postal Service's fixed costs, while the USPS is seeking more surcharges and a hike in the cost of a first-class postage stamp. Logistics experts said the impact will likely fall unevenly, with slower service appearing first and higher costs following, particularly for small businesses, non-Prime members, and rural customers. And that means the non-Prime members, non-Amazon Prime members. And there are, of course, other retailers that have their own subscription services that give faster shipping to those who are willing to pay a premium for that. Rural America sits at the center of the shift, with roughly 20% of Americans living in areas where deliveries are less dense, more expensive, and harder to serve efficiently. But it is an area of recent focus within Amazon's investments in logistics. So what I'm hearing here is that there is with the shift, these shifts of within the Department of the Postal Service, we're looking at the potential for rural areas to have to be less served by the Postal Service, which has an obligation to deliver to all parts of the country. And I can tell you, for a while, I lived out in a rural area of Oregon, and what was interesting, we had a post office in town. If you lived in town, you did not get home delivery. You had a post box, and you had to go to the post office to pick up your mail. If you lived in the outskirts, you did get home delivery, but it was not like it is in a dense urban center like Chicago. It was very, very just a very different situation here. Small businesses and consumers, especially in rural parts of the country, could face higher shipping costs. Let me bring that back up again. Could face higher shipping costs and less reliable delivery service. And that's a real problem. And as a result of a recent deal between Amazon and the U.S. Postal Service, which would have Amazon sending fewer of its packages through the USPS. The changes in a recently proposed agreement, which still requires approval from the Postal Regulatory Commission, would see Amazon cut roughly 20% of the packages it ships through the service, about 200 million shipments a year, as it shifts more deliveries into its own network. That shift would leave USPS spreading the cost of its nationwide delivery network across fewer packages, putting pressure on both pricing and service. When a large shipper like Amazon moves volume away, it requires either increasing rates for other customers or cutting back on service levels to reduce costs, said Satish Jindal, president of ShipMatrix, a shipping consultancy and analytics provider. Those impacts would likely show up first in places that are already more expensive to serve, he said. The underlying economics of delivery make a divide in delivering service based on location unavoidable and likely to become more visible, said Manish Kapoor, the founder and CEO of Growth Catalyst Group, a company that specializes in supply chain consulting and fulfillment and delivery. Kapoor, who recently led Amazon's Last Mile, Amazon Fresh, and Sunday delivery efforts, founded FedEx Same Day City, said the two factors that drive last mile economics are volume and density. 20% of Americans live in rural areas. Amazon could deliver there, but the volume and density go down. As such, the frequency would decrease and cost would increase, he said. Amazon has undertaken several efforts to increase deliveries to small towns, announcing last year that it would spend $4 billion on the effort. Shipping experts say rural delivery costs more because drivers make fewer stops per mile, increasing the cost per package. Carriers already include surcharges as high as $16.50 for remote areas and about $8.85 for rural deliveries, according to ShipMatrix data. Rural areas and small businesses will feel price increases first, while larger customers with contracts may be insulated in the short term, said Emerita Basan, CEO of reverse logistics firm Sotira. At one point during the recent negotiations in March before a deal was struck, Amazon said it was USPS that abruptly walked away at the 11th hour. We're pleased to have reached a new agreement with USPS that furthers our long-standing partnership and will let us continue supporting our customers and communities together, an Amazon spokesman now tells CNBC. USPS did not respond to a request for comment. For consumers, the impact may not show up in prices right away. Instead, it is more likely to appear in how packages move through the system. Changes in delivery time, such as slower transit or reduced on-time performance, can show up much faster than pricing adjustments, Jindal said, adding that price increases may take longer because they require regulatory approval. Unequal e-commerce and a difficult time for the Postal Service, the system is already uneven. In less dense areas, deliveries are often less frequent and less predictable. According to ShipMatrix data, on-time delivery rates in rural areas run about 7 to 7% slower than in urban markets, where performance typically ranges between 94% and 96%. Some remote zip codes also do not receive 7-day delivery and may see packages arrive on alternating days, particularly for lower-cost shipping options, Jindal said. That means an experience of ordering online that is already marked by disparities, even if it doesn't always appear that way at checkout. Could see disparities become more pronounced if the proposed changes take effect. Goes down a bit. You can certainly read that in our show notes. The bottom line here is what we're looking at is an increased disparity between how people in rural communities are able to receive packages or letters, which could include certified or registered mail, legal issues, potentially prescriptions, medical equipment, clothing, food ingredients, things that are pretty critical. Whereas people who have businesses in these areas may also suffer that as well. Their customers may also have this problem if they're trying to ship packages out to their customers. And we're seeing now that the USPS has became dependent in some ways on Amazon, which was kind of the whole point of having a postal service to begin with. Now that's being taken away, and it means a degradation of service and an increased inequality in this country for what has supposed to have been a very constitutionally mandated service. The idea that everybody has a right to send and receive mail at a flat rate that is completely changing at this point.
I agree. And I think it's been by design. They're just trying to just one more example of trying to put pressure on public institutions to basically have a public to try to clamor for a market solutions and all of that, which is why they're trying to say, well, go rely on FedEx or require go to Amazon or whatever, that's, or UPS, at least UPS is unionized, but here, this is what they're trying to do. They're trying to go in and try to get the public to say you can't rely on the government to do anything, and it's not the government itself. It's the people. Is the people from the outside corporate interests that they're pressuring the government to actually deprive funds to properly allow the public sector to do its job the way it needs to be done, and to kind of make things more substandard or what have you. And and it's not. I mean, that's what they're trying to do. Postal Service, VA, you name it, anything that's public, they're trying to delegitimize public institutions across the board.
They are. And again, Amazon says, okay, well, we're going to expand our rural delivery. Okay, but that ties then people in that area to Amazon.
Yes.
That ties them, as everybody's saying, it's tying them to Amazon. So other retailers, other services, people may not be willing to use them because it's going to take that much longer to get a package or to get a letter. And the thing is, the longer something is in transit, the longer it has for things to go wrong, for things to break, for envelopes or packages to tear and rip or to go missing. And we've already seen the devaluation of the postal system in this country that's been going on for a very long time. For those of you who remember, I used to do the reports on the exploding mail trucks. Back in 2019, when I was at Hardlands, I found out that since, I want to say for the past several decades, on average, one mail truck exploded every 4 days because some of them were so badly maintained. And we saw this ongoing degradation of services, and we're seeing it now. We've seen it in our public infrastructure, the collapse of that. We've seen the collapse of what's happened in public schools. A lot of our public institutions are suffering from neglect, and what that means is that people who can afford private options can do so. And those who cannot are forced to make do. And so this is a concern. And I think that if you're not as familiar with how rural America can be, the United States can be, you don't realize how isolated some of the people are. They're very far away from each other, far from their local, their neighbors. And without a delivery service, a mail delivery service that actually works for these folks can become far more isolated. And that can have detrimental effects, not only in terms of being able to do business, health, and well-being, but also how connected they feel to the government.
Yeah. And as I said, some of this is by design. Give you an example when it comes to the public transportation system. Mm-hmm. There was a time that we were on the right track in America. Nothing done by the federal government. Just medium and large size cities were having like decent size functioning local transit systems that were operational along the lines of what you will see in Europe. But the three automakers found a way to tell a lot of these the smaller cities, more medium-sized cities, that they were going to go and modernize the local transit systems, and they destroyed the rail streets and everything, and made them rely on buses and have it so where people can rely on cars, for example. And this is why we don't have what they have in places like London or Paris or what have you, or
Japan.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, so that applies to that. It applies to that too. I mean, just the whole idea of public institutions. We're talking about the Postal Service or anything else.
Indeed, and without those public institutions, the public will suffer. Getting into now man of war stings. I got to appreciate all of you hanging around. We're not doing our normal switch ups with our graphics because Uncle Warren is dealing with a malfunctioning institution, namely Comcast, which is not providing internet. But we have this report from the Cradle. Lebanon seeks ceasefire extension in talks with Israel as Hezbollah confronts occupation forces. The Lebanese government is expected to seek a 1-month extension to the ceasefire I love the little quotes there, between Israel and Hezbollah during this week's direct talks between Beirut and Tel Aviv. AFP reported on 22nd April. Lebanon will request an extension of the truce for 1 month, an end to Israel's bombing and destruction in the areas where it is present, and a commitment to the ceasefire, a Lebanese official told AFP. Another Lebanese source told the outlet that Thursday's meeting will focus on 2 topics. The first is a ceasefire extension and discussion on a date for expanding the Israel-Lebanon negotiations beyond the ambassadorial level. As part of these discussions, Lebanon will push for Israeli troop withdrawal, the report says. Can't say I blame them. The second topic is the return of Lebanese prisoners and the demarcation of the border. A ceasefire is Lebanon's condition to move forward with expanded talks, according to the sources. The meeting will take place on 23rd April. It will mark the second round of direct talks since the Lebanese government rejected inclusion in the U.S.-Iran ceasefire 2 weeks ago. As a result of Iranian pressure, Israel halted airstrikes on the Lebanese capital, but has continued to expand its illegal occupation of South Lebanon, detonate entire residential neighborhoods, and carry out drone strikes. Israel troops have also set up a Gaza-style yellow line in the south aimed at seizing territory and creating a buffer. Hezbollah, its supporters, and many others across Lebanon have slammed the direct talks as they constitute a violation of Lebanese laws. The AFP report it comes amid Hezbollah's confrontation with Israeli troops occupying the south. In defense of Lebanon and its people, and in response to the Israeli enemy's violation of the ceasefire, the Mujahideen of the Islamic Resistance targeted at 11 on Wednesday, April 24th, the newly established artillery base of the Israeli enemy army in the town of El Bayada with a drone, Hezbollah said in a statement on 22nd April. Fire was seen erupting in one of the base's control rooms. The night before, the Lebanese resistance movement said it targeted an Israeli artillery position in the Kafar Galadi settlement across the border. Hezbollah has repeatedly stressed it will not allow a return to the post-November 2024 truce situation, during which it exercised patience with Israel's ceasefire violations to give the government a chance to expel Israeli occupation forces from South Lebanon diplomatically. 2 Israeli soldiers were killed in the south over the weekend as a result of the detonation of Hezbollah explosive devices. Well,
what I got to say about it is, you can't trust the Israelis on anything, and you can't, just when it comes to these ceasefire agreements, and just I don't know what's going to take to have this situation resolved for the better.
No, I was listening to a podcast over the weekend, and there was some interesting commentary. One is that Israel is potentially on its way to becoming, if it isn't already, a pariah state. And when things turn and begin to go very badly for Israel, Israelis who want to flee the country may find that they're not welcome in a lot of places.
What I feel sorry for are maybe the handful of left-wing Israelis in the population that don't like the shit that the Israelis are doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's what those are the people I will feel sorry for. And Israel is on the verge of not. I don't think that they will be a nation by 2030. That's my prediction.
That's what people are saying, that there's going to be civil war.
And my fears is the Samson option. And not that I believe in covert agencies in any country around the world, but if they're planning to do that Samson option, I hope to God that somebody's out there to try to make sure that Samson option never happens. Taking those 90 nukes that they have, that they're going to go and, like, if they're going to go down, they're going to take a bunch of countries down with them. I mean, yeah, yeah. Just I hope that they dismantle those nukes before they do that shit.
Something else that was being discussed on this podcast was that, I talk about America being a bunch of tantruming adolescents. They pointed out that Iran has a very old culture, and some of these countries with older cultures are a lot more patient about things. That they're less likely to act and react because they know that some of these things will take time to sort themselves out. One of those particular countries, which I often think about, is China. And I found this, it's a very short story that I found recently, China Daily. Joint steps for peace stressed. Let me bring this up. She discusses Mideast conflict, Africa's development with Mozambican leader. So essentially, President of China is meeting with the President of the Republic of Mozambique, and is ready to work with Africa to address the challenges arising from the current Middle East situation and jointly promote peace and seek development as the development of the regional conflict spills over into African countries. So China is very willing to make outreaches to countries that are being negatively impacted by this temper tantrum. And they're putting themselves in that position. I wanted to share that with everybody. That, they're, for example, President of China underlined the need to remain focused on development, saying that in the process of continuously expanding high standard opening up, China has always given priority to Africa. Starting on May 1st, China will fully implement zero tariffs on imports from 53 African countries with which it has diplomatic ties, further expanding market access for African products through upgrades such as the Green Channel, he said. And they're perfectly willing to work with Africa. They are not being absolutely ridiculous here. They are reaching out. They are forming connections and saying, hey, we're willing to work with you folks. Don't worry about what those silly Americans are doing. And that's the position that we're being put into, is that, China is the one who's being reasonable, who's investing. And I mean, I've got my own issues with the Chinese Communist Party and some of the contracts that they have, but this is what we're doing. We're making China into the leader here. They're the ones who are acting like leaders.
Yeah, I mean, I got issues with things like the social credit system that they have and things of that nature. I mean, I'm basically not a Marxist-Leninist in any shape, way, or form. But you know what? China's not having their naval fleet surrounding the United States. We have our naval fleet surrounding them. I mean, and we are definitely an aggressors around them. So while I may not agree with many aspects of what they do inside their country, I like the fact that they have modern infrastructure and those bullet trains that they have, and some of the modernized systems and everything. Foreign policy, they're not imperialistic, and that's a good thing. That is a good thing. And as far as whatever my opinion is, whatever their relationship is with Taiwan, we are in no position to lecture them when we're sitting there doing what we're doing with Iran, or what we do, nabbing the president of Venezuela, like we did in January, and possibly ready to invade Cuba at a certain point. The United States is in no moral authority, to lecture China or any other country on this planet. That's where I pretty much stand.
Well, yeah, and I think, again, China is taking this opportunity to go off and be productive.
Yeah.
and they're in a good position to do so.
Yeah, yeah, very much so. Very much so.
All right. And speaking of all that's going on right now, there is an augmented reality tool that allows students to explore true cost of nuclear weapons. We can't put a nuclear warhead on a teacher's desk in real life, but with AR, we can make you see it there. It puts the cost of these decisions in the room where your kids learn at the scale where you can actually feel it. Yeah, I mean, this is something, I thought when the Iron Curtain fell that fears about nuclear war were going by the wayside, and to watch the saber rattling that's been increasing over the past several years has been really disheartening. So here we are back to teaching kids about nukes. A new educational campaign is using augmented reality technology to help American students understand the true costs of processing and maintaining a massive stockpile of nuclear weapons. Up in Arms, a campaign started by Ben & Jerry's co-founder Ben Cohen to increase support for slashing the bloated U.S. defense spending budget, has teamed with nonprofit Media Lab Amplifier to create Class Dismissed, a new initiative that gives students in K-12 classrooms a jarring visual representation of nuclear weapons. This is a campaign about trade-offs, Class Dismissed states on its website. By placing full-scale representations of nuclear weapons into classrooms, gyms, libraries, and schoolyards, the project makes national spending priorities visible at a human scale. As federal military budgets expand, domestic programs are squeezed year after year. While hundreds of billions flow into Cold War-era weapons, schools are left with overcrowded classrooms, aging buildings, and fewer teachers and support staff. The campaign emphasizes that the weapons students will see depicted on their devices through augmented reality are not hypothetical, but instead reflect real weapons programs and real costs, translated through comparisons drawn from public reporting and nonpartisan budget analysis. Aaron Huey, founder of Amplifier and creative director for Class Dismissed, said the campaign decided to use augmented reality technology to accomplish things that are physically impossible but politically necessary. We can't put a nuclear warhead on a teacher's desk in real life. That would be fun. But with AR, we can make you see it there, says Huey. It puts the cost of these decisions in the room where your kids learn and at the scale where you can actually feel it. The Congressional Budget Office in 2025 projected that plans by the U.S. Department of Defense and the Department of Energy to operate, sustain, and modernize current nuclear forces and purchase new forces will cost $946 billion through 2034, an average of $95 billion per year. That total includes $357 billion to operate and sustain current and future nuclear forces and other supporting activities, CBO explained. $309 billion to modernize strategic and tactical nuclear delivery systems and the weapons they carry. $72 billion to modernize facilities and equipment for nuclear weapons laboratory complex. $79 billion to modernize command control communications and early warning systems, and $129 billion to cover potential additional costs in excess of projected budget amounts estimated using historical cost growth. That's a lot of money.
A lot of wasted money to modernize the nuclear weapons program, basically, huh?
Yeah, it's the amount of money that's going into this program and giving students and giving people an idea. I think that when we're talking about billions and trillions, I don't think people have a real sense of how much money that is. It's hard for me to fathom.
Yeah, it's hard for me to fathom. Just think about what could be used for that. I mean, I know that's cliche, but I mean, what could be used? What you could put the resources that could be invested, with that money. I mean, that could improve lives and make ourselves more competitive in the world economy and everything, and enhance the quality of life. So the average American, we have to go and invest it in nuclear weaponry and all of this, and to potentially destroy and end civilization. I mean, how does that make any sense?
Well, when you consider the impact of things like environmental problems, what happened in Flint, Michigan, with the water. I mean, that's a bill that is coming due now, will continue to come due when you're dealing with kids who were negatively impacted by lead in drinking water.
Or you
When you look at kids who have asthma, because again, environmental pollutants.
Well, I'm half Puerto Rican, and Hurricane Maria in 2017, the devastation that cost to that island, and Puerto Rico's $80 billion, or was $80 billion in debt, and they're probably a little bit more now. You know, Trump could have easily forgiven the debt at that island and to help help rebuild and what have you. I mean, instead of putting more money into nuclear weaponry, could have taken a pittance of that money to help the economy of Puerto Rico, which is essentially part of the United States, which is essentially putting America first. But no, got to go and modernize something that doesn't need to be modernized at all. And in fact, if anything, needs to be dismantled.
Yeah. And Ms. Tree, actually, where we're going here, is bringing up the issue that ICE is requesting money for facial scanning profiling eyewear, and they record gait and that sort of thing. Again, what if this money was being put into education, or modernizing infrastructure, things that actually benefit the public and their day-to-day lives, rather than giving super high-tech stuff, which may or may not work very well, to specific agencies for the purpose of going after people and making their lives more difficult. Here we are. Okay, so we're now into Clownfish School. I don't know if did you see about this, Willie? 3 convicted in the U.S. after the bear suit insurance scam.
No. What about it?
Trump did bring those paper towels. That is very true, and he threw it at everybody. So apparently, this is crazy. A bizarre insurance fraud scheme involving a bear costume, luxury vehicles, and falsified damage claims have now ended in convictions for 3 Los Angeles area residents, following a California Department of Insurance investigation dubbed Operation Bear Claw. And by the way, donut shops oftentimes sell bear claw pastry, so I'm finding this amusing. But nonetheless, the defendants used a person in a bear suit to stage fake attacks on high-end vehicles, then submitted fraudulent claims seeking payouts from insurance companies. What may have looked unbelievable turned out to be exactly that. And now those responsible are being held accountable, said Insurance Commissioner Ricardo Lara. My department's investigators uncovered the facts, exposed this scam, and helped bring these defendants to justice. Insurance fraud is a serious crime that drives up costs for consumers, and no scheme is too outrageous for us to investigate. Sentencing outcomes include Alfayette Zuckerman, 39 of Valley Village, 180 days in jail, 2 years of supervised probation, and over $55,000 in restitution. Ruben Tamrazin, no contest, 180 days in jail, weekend jail program, restitution, another 180 days, and then the last person is looking to return to court in September. The investigation began after an insurance company flagged a suspicious claim tied to a January 28, 24 incident in Lake Arrowhead. The suspects claimed a bear entered their 2010 Rolls-Royce Ghost and caused interior damage, submitting video footage to support the claim. Upon further review, the department detectives determined that the bear in the video was a person wearing a bear costume. Investigators later uncovered 2 additional fraudulent claims submitted to separate insurance companies involving the same date and location, this time tied to a 2015 Mercedes G63 AMG and a 2022 Mercedes E350. To further verify the deception, a biologist from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife reviewed the footage and concluded that the animal shown was clearly a human in a bear suit. Detectives later executed a search warrant and recovered the costume from the suspect's home. The total loss to the insurance companies was $141,839. The department detectives were assisted by the Glendale Police Department and the California Highway Patrol. The San Bernardino County District's Attorney Office was prosecuting the case. And there is the bear costume.
Oh my God.
I'm loving the two little claws down there. Those are cooking tools. You actually use them to rip up pulled pork or that sort of thing. They're used to shred stuff. I think that's hilarious.
Ew, some people got some wild imaginations.
Well, what's getting me here is that they have these, Rolls Royce and a Mercedes and that sort of thing, and they're willing to go to all this trouble for an insurance fraud that wasn't even that much money.
Yeah, well, I don't know. There's a lot of crazy people in this world doing some weird things for whatever weird reasons, and you just never know what goes through people's minds sometimes.
That is absolutely true. So let's bring this up here. I don't know if you've been hearing this story. Gabriella Saldina. Have you been hearing about this? Young lady. She is a Florida student arrested over alleged bomb threat while naming Netanyahu dropped some bonbons. Authorities reportedly interpreted Gabriella Saldana's messages as a bomb threat targeting a campus event. A 23-year-old Florida International University student was arrested after she posted messages about Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in a university group chat. Authorities reportedly interpreted Gabriella Saldana's messages as a bomb threat targeting a campus event. She is a student at Florida International University, and she allegedly made a threat to kill or do bodily harm to individuals regarding a scheduled event on Friday, April 10th, 2026, via a WhatsApp group chat, according to an arrest report. NBCMiami.com reported. She was arrested on April 16th near a parking garage on the Modesto Medic campus, JFEED reported. According to the arrest report, Saldana sent the message on Wednesday to a group chat with several people, and the location of the incident is listed as FIU's campus. The defendant did so in a manner in which it may be viewed by another person and intended the threat to be a true threat. According to campus police, they arrested Saldana at an address that corresponds to a parking garage on 8th Street and 109th Avenue. She admitted that she sent the messages and was taken to Turner Guilford Knight Correctional Center. And effectively, what she did is she said something along the lines of, Netanyahu, if you can hear me, drop some bonbons for us, capstone students, at the Ocean Bank convocation because their exams were due or coming up and they weren't prepared for them.
Oh my God, an obvious joke.
An obvious joke. She didn't even say bunch, she said bonbons. And she said, and she was making it very clear because their exams were coming up and they weren't prepared.
I think it was in Florida too, where somebody was talking to an insurance adjuster and about a health claim, and they were having problems when and it was with United Health, and the person on the phone said something about Luigi Mangione, and it was the same thing. It was not a joke. It was like, no wonder the CEO got assassinated and that person got prosecuted.
Yeah.
And it's something similar along those lines. So much for free speech. It was not even a threat, and and what she said was not even a threat. But
yeah, I mean, and he was an invited guest. She wasn't suggesting that anything happened to him.
Yeah,
and was making a joke about upcoming. I mean, this is.
Yeah,
What
and
timeline are we in?
yeah, so it's basically people going to try to find words, that, and they're going to be like, oh, those words are threats or what have you. Therefore we're going to go and prosecute you or have you fired from your job or some ways just make your life miserable and punish you. You know,
Indeed. Indeed.
yeah.
And finally, is it life? We can't tell. NASA's Curiosity rover finds organic molecules on Mars. Scientists think they are looking at chemical building blocks of life preserved for 3.5 billion years. And here we are. NASA's Curiosity rover has detected organic molecules on Mars, including chemicals widely considered building blocks for the origin of life on Earth. 5 of the 7 molecules identified in a dried lake bed near the equator had never previously been observed on the red planet. The analysis performed by the robotic rover cannot establish whether the organic compounds are linked to potential ancient life on Mars or were delivered by meteorites or formed through geological processes. However, the finding implies that if microbial life once thrived on Mars, chemical fingerprints should remain there today. We think we are looking at organic matter that has been preserved on Mars for 3.5 billion years, said Professor Amy Williams, an astrogeologist at the University of Florida and a Curiosity mission scientist who led the experiment. Is it life? We can't tell based on this information. The car-sized Curiosity rover has been wheeling around the Gale crater and Mount Sharp since the robot descended onto the planet in 2012. Surface conditions are harsh, with temperatures dropping below minus 100 degrees Celsius at night, and the lack of an atmosphere, meaning Mars is blasted by powerful radiation from the sun. But the distant past liquid water flowed on the surface, and Mars had an atmosphere that protected it from radiation. It had all the conditions for life to start there when life was starting on Earth, said Professor Andrew Coates, a planetary scientist at University College London's Mullard Space Science Laboratory, who was not involved in the latest findings. There is no known reason why it shouldn't have started on Mars as well. However, scientists have been unsure whether the chemical traces of life from this window of habituality about 3.7 billion to 4.1 billion years ago would have survived to the present day. Williams said, for a long time, we thought all organic matter was going to be seriously degraded by that harsh radiation environment. It's really exciting to see that large, complex material can survive in the subsurface environment. The rover recently used its onboard analysis instruments to search for and detect compounds, including carbon, that are linked to life. The rover identified benzothiophene, a sulfurous chemical often delivered to planets by meteorites. And the experiment hinted at the presence of another nitrogen-bearing organic compound that bears a structure similar to precursors to DNA. There are several steps between what we found and DNA, Williams said. It is definitely a building block to how DNA is made now, but it is truly just the bricks, not the house. You can generate these molecules geologically. The same stuff that rained down on Mars from meteorites is what rained down on Earth, and it probably provided the building blocks for life as we know it on our planet, she added. The findings add to hopes that the European Space Agency's delayed Rosalind Franklin mission, which is scheduled to launch in 2028, could provide more detailed evidence about the nature of organic chemicals on Mars. The rover will drill to a depth of 2 meters and will be equipped to perform more sophisticated tests aimed at assessing the origin of such compounds. The findings are published in the journal Nature Communications. Well, there you go.
Well, I always had a philosophy about a point of view about life on outside of Earth. I don't think it's beyond I don't think it's crazy that there's life on other outside of Earth. I mean, I don't know if they had the means to get here or we had the means to get there, but I've always said that Australia might be proof that there's life on other planets, considering some of the, how when you look at the animal plant life,
yes,
in that it's different from everything else on Earth. that's probably proof that there's probably life on in other worlds. So, you know, it's not surprising what they found on Mars there.
Absolutely. You know, in all of this stuff that's going on right now, it is fascinating to see what is happening or in space. And
Yeah.
there's just, there's so much beyond where we are. I mean, the universe is so vast. Some things that there are multiple universes. And every once in a while, I think it's a good idea to, as they say, touch grass and look up into the sky, particularly at night, when you can see all those stars and know that you're looking at history. And there's so much beyond this planet.
Yeah, absolutely. To think that we're the only ones out there. I mean, I mean, it's ridiculous to think that we're the only ones out there. I mean, you're not crazy you're not crazy if you've seen something strange out there. I mean, my parents and I saw something strange one time on the way back from visiting my grandmother years ago. So I mean, if we saw something that looked like it was glowing in the sky, and we don't know what the hell that was, but it was a one-time thing. We think it might have been maybe some gas from a swamp or something. Looking back, but it was the weirdest sight we ever saw in our lives.
Indeed. All right. Well, I want to thank you, Willie, for being on the show and really pinch hitting here for Uncle Warren. I'm sorry that Comcast messed everything up. But thank you to Uncle Warren for giving me the heads up and just letting me know what I needed to do to control the show. And all of you have been so patient throughout this show today as I've tried to learn the ropes on the production end of things. Really do appreciate it. Quick reminder, if you haven't already followed us on our main YouTube channel, please do so. I've put a link in the comments section. You can go to our link tree and you can follow us on social media, but particularly on YouTube. Right now, I think as of this morning, we were at 88 subscribers. We're looking at getting to that 100 subscriber mark. Once we get there, we're going to do something special. So we'll have a fun night. Maybe do a trivia night. I did a trivia evening last week for some folks. Maybe we'll do one for us. Ms. Tree, always great to see you. Thank you for all of your comments and insight. Great Snipe Hunter. Thank you so much, all of you, for your support. And you, Willie, in particular, you've been such a great supporter of us. We really appreciate it.
Anytime. Oh, can I make an announcement?
Oh, yes, please, Willie. Talk about what you're doing and all that, please.
Okay. Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Mm-hmm.
Dwight Welch and myself will have a show on the recent election in Hungary and what repercussions it could have, and we'll be discussing that. And so I hope everyone will come and watch us at 5 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Yeah,
Willie does a good show. He's good people. He's got good guests. It'll be a good time. I'm going to put his link in here as well. And so do follow him. If you're not following Willie, please do so. He's part of this ecosystem that we all have, and we really do appreciate all that he does. So I want to thank all of you again for showing up this week and supporting us. We will see you next week, same bat time, same bat channel here on YouTube. We're on Facebook. We're on the Rumbly Tumblies. We're on Substack. And we really appreciate your connecting with us on any or all of those particular platforms. And we're going to keep trucking. So thank you again all so much. And we will see you all next week. Thank you all so much, Willie.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.